Got promoted at work last week. Boss said I'm doing well. Gave me new trainers, new iPhone, even an e-bike for deliveries. Working late most nights now, weekends too. Can't really tell mum where I'm going or what I'm carrying. Boss says best she doesn't know. Says if I stop showing up, he knows where my little sister goes to school. He knows where my little sister goes to school. That's not a promotion, that's exploitation. County Lines gangs groom kids with gifts, then trap them with threats. If you've noticed changes in a young person, they could be a victim of County Lines gangs. Call Crime Stoppers, 100% anonymous, on 0800 555 111.
Protein is now at Starbucks, and it's never tasted so good. You can add protein cold foam to your favorite drink or try one of our new protein lattes or matcha. Try it today at Starbucks.
Score more with the college-branded Venmo debit card and earn up to 5% cash back with Venmo Stash. Got paid back? With the Venmo debit card, you can instantly access your balance and spend on what you want, like game day snacks, gear, tickets, and more. The more you do, the more cash back you can earn. Plus, there's no monthly fee or minimum balance. Sign up now at Venmo.com/collegecard. The Venmo MasterCard is issued by the Bancorp Bank N.A. Select schools available. Venmo Stash terms and exclusions apply at venmo.me/stash terms. Max $100 cash back per month.
Hello everyone, I'm Chris Wynn and welcome to How We're the podcast. And if you listened in the other day to part one of our bumper Q&A, we will be picking up where we left off. And I think that was pretty much talking about Newcastle, wasn't it? And the derby, I think, from memory. But if you didn't listen to part one, then I suggest you go back and stick that on and bathe a little more in us talking about our win up the road on Sunday. And then come back to part two, where we'll probably talk about it some more, to be honest. But if you can't be asked to push the button, or you're like me and Alexa doesn't understand you or completely ignores you, carry on. And a warm welcome to part two of our Q&A, where I have our experts who can provide answers to your fantastic questions. But once again, they weren't available. So we'll have to make do with the usual suspects. And first up, we have Johnny Hawley. Hello, Johnny.
Hello, Chris. It's wonderful to be alive at this point, isn't it? Great to be alive, great to be here. Sun shining, Mags are below us in the league. Everyone's having a wonderful time.
It's funny, I knew that would come up as the first topic. I had an inkling, but Johnny, you haven't had your say on it really, because we've had a few of us on since, and I think you've been recovering from a heavy hangover since then. So, what was your summary of the day, and what can you remember basically?
Luckily for me, because it was a midday kickoff, I can remember the game. I have got some pretty vivid memories of the goals going in.
Everything after 3:00 is a blur, is it?
Well, I was out with an Arsenal fan also to watch the League Cup final, and had to Google the League Cup final result the next morning when I woke up, because I had no idea who'd won. If that tells you anything about how the celebrations went after Brobbey's winner. So, a wonderful day, but not one that I'll be remembering in great detail.
Okay, right. But fantastic win though, wasn't it, mate? It's a great performance really, wasn't it? I mean, I think the first half was as good as the second half, but in a completely different way, in the way that we had to recover.
Yeah, it was brilliant, wasn't it? I mean, we were talking about this in one of the chats the other day, weren't we? First half was an excellent performance. Like, it was blotted by that one obviously high profile moment where O'Nien has a slight slip and then the ball is given away and then they score. But by and large, they had the Elanga header over the bar, they hit the post. Aside from that, they did absolutely nothing. And then second half, we just grew and grew and grew into the game. And I think maybe not from half time, but from about 2 minutes into the second half, I think it was becoming clear that there was only one team who was going to go on and score more goals and win the game. And it wasn't the team in black and white. And that's the way it proved to be. And obviously, from our point of view, thank God for that, eh?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. We did, well, like I said, we had one or two rants on part one of the Q&A, and this man was part of it really, and so we welcome Ant Waterson. All right, mate.
Oh yes, I'm all good now. I've calmed down a little bit, so I'd still like to wish Anthony Gordon a very good week, and I'd also like to wish Craig Gordon an even better week, because you're a legend, mate.
I still don't get that. I was reading it out and I still said Craig. It just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it, for Sunderland fans, Craig Gordon? But yeah, I mean, we talked about it a lot on the first Q&A, but are you ready to move on yet, Ant, or are you still soaking it in?
Oh, I'll be soaking it in for, until the Tottenham Hotspur game in a couple of weeks' time. I'll still be soaking it in, but also ready to have some quite, little bit of in-depth conversation about the games. I remember when we came off air on the last one, and Chris was like, I wanted to talk about Chris Rigg. We couldn't, I'm afraid. But yeah, we'll talk about Riggy. We'll promise Chris we'll talk about Chris Rigg because he was outstanding. So there we go.
Yes, and we will pick up where we left off yesterday or the other day in terms of the people's questions that they sent in, because we do have a lot more to get through that are maybe non-Derby related. And also with us, we have Andrew Smithson. Hello, Andrew.
Hello, everybody. Chris, do us a favour, please. Please release the tapes of the type of stuff we talk about before the podcast starts, because I've had a great laugh. And I'm going to take you around the houses now. You said we were ranting yesterday. Rant is the name of a Future Heads album. Sunday afternoon in the Blue Bell, after the game, they started playing Future Head songs. The place went absolutely up. It was absolutely jumping. So that was a highlight for me on Sunday. But my other highlight was in the background to all the full-time whistle stuff at St. James, they played Sam Fender, who is just like this most performative Geordie. He's the most hypocritical guy you could ever think of with some of his political comments, and then he supports that a lot. So just for today, whenever I'm answering a question, can you put Sam Fender in the background, please? Just because all of those videos of Chris Rigg and everybody celebrating and everybody from a Sunderland perspective enjoying it, just to hear him in the background warbling on. It was not a patch on the singing of the Future Heads and the Blue Bell. But I think that would just be a nice little reminder of post-match and the fun and games we've had since the full-time whistle.
I must admit, Andrew, it's probably the first time I've ever liked a Sam Fender song. Like,
Genuinely, I don't know, it might just be because I'm old, but genuinely, if you put a Sam Fender song on, I wouldn't have a clue if it was Sam Fender or not. Would not have a clue. I would not. Don't get us, like, you stick a Future Head song on, I had all of their albums back in the day, but stick a Sam Fender song, I wouldn't have a clue. If you walk past us right now, I wouldn't have a clue it was him, to be honest. But that's just me being old.
But there's an easy way. There's an easy way to tell. You put a Sam Fender song on, and immediately 1,000 gravy stained mag turn up eating steak bakes and waving flags. It's the easiest thing in the world to tell when you listen to Sam Fender.
No, and Eliza Myender's just stood there shaking his head, saying, "Turn this off."
He's just stood there threateningly holding a knife.
He's the Myenda meme, just looking at one side, just. But anyway, let's get into it, because I did say we would talk about Chris Rigg. But first, and I want to put this to you, Johnny, because the first question we've got is from Joe Lewins, and he's asking about Brian Brobbey. We talked about him on the pods since the game, but he asks, he said, in general, we came of age against the visitors. It also highlighted that Brobbey has the potential to be one of the best forwards in the Premier League. No one else has his attributes, in my opinion, and he is one player we need to keep for next season unless there's an outrageous offer. What's your view? But I said on the podcast immediately after the game, Johnny, and I quoted Bobby Saxton, what he said about a performance about Niall Quinn, where he said, no better performance in Europe by a centre forward in Europe this weekend. And honestly, if there was a better performance by a centre forward, I want to see it, because he did everything. He held it up, he scored, he worked his socks off, he created things. There wasn't a thing that Brian Brobbey didn't do. And at the price we paid from him, Johnny, it's an absolute steal, isn't it?
Not just the price we paid for him, but his age as well. It's easy to forget because of how physically imposing he is and how comparatively experienced he is as well compared to our other options, because obviously, he's come from Ajax, he's played top-level football over there, he's a Dutch international. It's easy to forget how young he is. He's still got a lot of improvement that he can do over the next few seasons, and you're right. His profile, the type of player that he is, it's just such a throwback, isn't he? He's the kind of striker that you want to see leading the line in the Premier League. He's got, we all know his physical abilities out of this world. But I think more importantly than that, he's starting to show, particularly over the last sort of couple of months, he's really starting to connect well with his teammates. He's able to link play really, really well. He gets you up the pitch. And just above everything, he's a proper striker. You could tell that with the goal because he sniffed that chance out. You could see, Sadiq gets the ball and obviously ends up playing it to Lafay. Brobbey's already peeling away and trying to, pull off towards the back post and make the run in behind. Then that doesn't come, but he doesn't stand and wait. He's still alert. He's still alive. He knows exactly what Lafay's going to try and do. And he does really well to get himself, a couple of yards of space at the front post. And obviously that's where he gets the goal from. You kind of teach that sort of thing. Brobbey's got it, which I think is huge. So over the next couple of seasons, as long as he's able to stay fit, because, he didn't have a pre-season this season. He obviously had a checkered time towards the end of his spell at Ajax. So he needs a bit of consistency and he needs a bit of match fitness and sharpness to come into him from an early stage next season. But if he gets all of that, I think, the skies really is the limit with him. He could go on to be a proper handful at the top level. We're talking 15, possibly 20 plus goal a season striker if it all comes together. So yeah, I thought he was phenomenal and fully deserves all the plaudits he's got from the weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'll stick it to you, Ant, because I think one of the disgraces of the modern game is the disappearance of the traditional centre forward. And I tell you what, I mean, Brobbey's it, isn't he? And if you look at people like Gyökeres at Arsenal, and just generally looking around at what strikers you've got, because look how much Isak went in the summer just because he was one of the only strikers around who would actually, do some of the dirty work and score your goals at the same time. And I mean, you'd be amazed if there wasn't bigger clubs looking at the progress of Brian Brobbey.
No, I think you're right. I mean, what I love about him is he's just, you're in a game with him. You know that they've gone off that, one did go off, didn't they? Freaking Botman, bless him. He's broke his face, hasn't he? Headbutting his shin pad. So there's one down. But like I say too, the other two, I mean, Dan Burn would have been having nightmares about him. I mean, he just doesn't give you a moment's peace, does he? But it was a proper centre forwards performance, like when it on.
All right, Craig Gordon.
Craig Gordon, centre forwards performance. I mean, from the get go, even like the first couple of minutes, I think he'd peeled off Burn and they got, I thought, was quite a soft free kick. And from then on, he was just immense, and that's what allowed us in the second half to get that kind of, I say, courage to get forward and to get ourselves in those spaces, because he was doing so well at holding their defenders up, and it allowed Lafay, it gives Sadiq so much room in that second half as well, and obviously allowed Rigg and Talby to do what they did. It was a complete performance. It was a 10 out of 10, and he's done that so many times this season, hasn't he? He's. I remember City in the league in January on New Year's Day, and he absolutely bullied two world-class centre-halves. Bullied them. And he deserves that. And if he can, as Johnny said, if he can add just a few more goals, I mean, he's got, there's 6 now he's got, but if he can get to 10 by the end of the season, that's a great return. But next year, like, a pre-season under him, if he can stay fit, you are looking at 15, 20 goals, and you look at who's got the top scorer in the league in a minute, it's Haaland. He hasn't got many more than that, so the sky's the limit with me. He's just immense, isn't he? He's like, I can't compare him to anyone who we've had before. Probably like a little bit of Victor Anichebe, but he's actually good. You know what I mean? And that's probably, sorry Victor, but probably something like that, where he was like a big strong unit, wasn't he? But he's just got everything. And what I even love about him the most is he's even got like muscles coming out of his 6-pack. You know what I mean? He's just unreal. Such a good footballer.
Haven't we all, Ant? We've all got muscles coming out of 6-packs, haven't we?
I'll speak for yourself. I certainly haven't.
But Johnny mentioned it, though, Andrew, that potentially let's say the big 6 or whatever, the likes of Arsenal who were looking for a striker for so long, maybe didn't go near him because there was maybe that baggage. But you look at, and the interview with him afterwards was absolutely fantastic in terms of looking at his character, where he just went, yeah, well, look, I won. He wiped one centre half out of the game and scored a goal and just went, yeah, I won. But he was very matter of fact with it. It wasn't he wasn't kidding about. He just went, yeah. And if you're a player in the Sunderland dressing room and you look around who you're going to war with, and you look at Brian Brobbey and you went, I want to follow that guy. And he's that type of player where you think, if he's in our team, we've got a chance.
Definitely. And let's remember, I think wasn't that only his second game back after a little injury? Didn't we have Mayenda having to start for a few weeks?
Yeah. So he came back against Brighton now. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's the potential that he wasn't even fully up to match sharpness. Yeah.
Just quickly, Andrew, is there an argument that we haven't really ever seen him 100% this season?
That's actually a really good point because, he missed a lot of didn't he come in late in the deadline and he'd missed pre-season? So, and you're quite right. Maybe at that point, other clubs were looking at him and thought, nah, we're not 100% sure. He could very easily be a player that we're knocking bids back for in the summer. And we've spoken there about his direct involvement and how he actively pins back defenders and scores goals and what have you. But I think he's just his presence on the pitch is impacting our play. I mean, Aldrete was back to his best with regards to, when he likes to play those flat balls along the deck right through the middle of the pitch. They weren't necessarily aimed at Brobbey, but there was space there because Brobbey is occupying players. And even the goal, the winning goal, how much space did Siddiqui have in front of their box? There was a few times in the second half where we're getting the ball in acres of space in their half, and we're able to drive at them, and Siddiqui did it and sent it to Lafay, who went out wide. Some of that is because they've probably all got half an eye on Brobbey because we could ping it up to him, he could make it stick, and then could just pop it up very easily. So they're perhaps thinking, we need to not just have somebody marking him directly, but we need to have somebody near him as well for the knockdowns. So even when he's not doing anything, he's doing something in that he's giving us the ability to move into space. Phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely. And coming in late at the back post, we've got a new member of the team. We've got Gavin Henderson. All right, Matt?
Hello. How we doing?
Good. And we're just on about Brian Brobbey because the first question was just talking about basically how amazing he is. And so we've been talking about that. But the end of the question was saying, is he a player that we need to keep for next season? And maybe we might have to bat away some outrageous offers for him because if you look around, there's not that many strikers, is there? And especially there's not many strikers that do as many different things as Brian Brobbey, is there?
Well, young, very unique profile of footballer, scores goals, has proven it now in 2 leagues. If he has a good World Cup, I'm fully expecting it.
Oof,
I came to peace
I
with this
didn't
a
even
long
think
time.
of that.
Yeah, well, he's been called up, hasn't he? And I think I saw some comments from, is it Hiddink, their manager, or Coleman, sorry. Ronald Coleman, he was saying about how it's basically a straight choice between Brobbey and the fella who was at Villa, Daniel Malin, is it? Yeah. So it's basically a straight sort of contest between them two for the upcoming games, because I think Memphis Depay's their long-established centre forward, isn't he? But I think, if Brobbey can get chances at the World Cup and prove himself there as well, that's only going to increase his profile further. But look, he's so unique, isn't he? And I think it was said quite a lot when we signed him about how it was only like a year before that Ten Hag was trying to bring him into Man United, and they were being quoted like 50, 60 million. Ajax were quoting to sign him then. Obviously had a bit of a year and struggled with a bunch of problems, and we all kind of know what went on there, and has come to Sunderland to rediscover himself, and he has. And I think given, he missed the first portion of the season just getting fit really and trying to sort himself out. And the club are very patient with him. I think given all of that, to the fact he's on 6 goals is pretty impressive. And look, you more than likely get another 2 or 3, I would have thought, between now and the end of the season. So, absolutely. I'm fully expecting teams to come in from. But again, I made peace with this, that we're going to have interest in our players a long, long time ago. That's why I don't get too attached to them, really. But it's understandable when you consider what he's like, Chris. Is there anybody really playing right now like that? Like at the top level? Anywhere? I
They've all
can't
gone.
think of anyone.
All those strikers have gone. There's none left.
Yeah, so unique. And if they are about, they're like, they're probably 6'3", 6'4", and he's not. He's what, 5'10", 5'11" tops. He's not like Brobbey's not like he's not tall. He's
And
just
he's
like
quick.
a shed, isn't he? He's just like
quick.
he's built like a shed. He's just so unique. Yeah, you're right. They're all gone, Chris. I don't. If there are any out there, they're in short supply, and that's going to make them very, very popular when it comes to recruitment.
Yeah. Well, moving on from Brian Brobbey, because we did say we were going to talk about Chris Rigg, and we'll come to Andrew and Ant first, because they might have to leave us, unfortunately. But we'll get their say on Chris Rigg, because first one, I'll come to you, Andrew. Rob T 180. He says, is it time to give Rigg a run in the team until the end of the season? He's done a great job on the right-hand side the last 2 games. And we were actually saying before these last couple of games that he would have been disappointed with the minutes he's got. But now he's got his chance. He's taken it, hasn't he?
Without doubt. Yes, unfortunately, I might have to do my best impression of an early leaver and drop a shoulder drop a shoulder in a second. But Chris Rigg deserves this credit he's had for the last couple of games. He looks to have really made a step up in his performance levels. Really mature at the weekend at St. James. You could have understood it if the occasion had overawed him or something like that. But he was a fantastic player. He had a couple of chances. I think his shot and save led to the corner that we equalised from.
Yep.
I love the fact that he can, for such a young player, he's got good game intelligence and can do different jobs on the pitch. And bless him, he looked to be loving his life at full time. It's just nice to see a young lad who he's not jaded by the sport or anything. He just seems to be loving the opportunity his hard work has given him. And yeah, I'd have no qualms if he was to play the next few games, because we've got injuries in that position. But even if you put that to one side, he's been more than good enough. And I think there's more to come from the lad.
Yeah. And to put it to you, Ant, about Chris Rigg, we've got one from Mang the Ram, who said, what is Rigg's positional future? He said he's played well on the right the last 2 weeks, but is he really a winger? If he's a midfielder, do you actually see a place for him there anytime soon? And I suppose that's the conundrum, isn't it, with Chris Rigg? What role do you play him in?
I quite like him on the wing. I think in the last couple of games he's been quite good. He was excellent and especially in the second half on Sunday. He was incredible, to be fair. And I can see him, like a Lafayette kind of role where sometimes he plays on the wing, sometimes he's in the 10. We're going to remember that he's still a young lad. He's not as if he's like in his mid-20s now. He's still a kid. So he's still probably learning himself. But I think, long term, like I say, Lafayette role, if he needs to go out wide, needs to go out wide. If he plays in the 10, he needs to play in the 10. You got to look at this squad. It's adaptability, isn't it? Sorry about that, as my phone going. It's adaptability, isn't it? Where we've asked some of these players to play in positions where they haven't, it's not probably their best position, like Trey Hume on the left and even Enzo, like I say, out there. But, they do a job for the club, and that's what he's doing. He's proven that he's a very good squad player for us, and he's willing to go anywhere, willing to put the effort in, and he's reaping the benefits now. His last 2 games, he has been excellent. And obviously, when we don't really have a right winger at the moment, because obviously they prefer Talby on the left, it's probably his position to lose at the moment, because he tried Mayenda out there, and that hasn't quite worked either. So fair play to him. He's probably deserved it, and that's what it is with being patient. He could have easily went in January and went, oh, can I have a loan? I need to be playing. I want to play some football. Kids alone. No, you staying here. You're going to get your place in the team. And then, that must have been mint for him on Sunday, wasn't it? Going against, his boyo team and all that, but going there for Sunderland and then rubbing it right in at the end. He's a proper macker now, like any Chris Rigg. If there was ever any doubt. Absolutely brilliant, though. I was chuffed to bits for him, like, I really was. It was lovely to see as well when he went back out with his phone and stuff. He's going to treasure that for the rest of his career, isn't he? So fair play to him. And like I say, he's deserved it.
Yeah, absolutely, Ant. And before we bring Johnny and Gavin on Chris Rigg, I think that's a perfect place for us to take a quick break. So we'll be back after these.
My day kicks off with a refreshing Celsius energy drink, then straight to the gym. Pre-K pickup, back home to meal prep. Time for my fire station shift. One more Celsius, gotta keep the lights on. When the 3-alarm hits, I'm ready. Celsius. Live, fit, go. Grab a cold, refreshing Celsius at your local retailer or locate now at Celsius.com.
LifeLock, how can I help?
The IRS said I filed my return,
But I haven't.
1 in 4 tax-paying Americans has paid the price of identity fraud.
What do I do?
My refund, though.
I'm freaking out.
Don't worry, I can fix this.
LifeLock fixes identity theft guaranteed and gets your money back with up to $3 million in coverage.
I'm so relieved.
No problem. I'll be with you every step of the way.
1 in 4 was a fraud-paying American. Not anymore. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
Your little one grew 3 inches overnight. Adorable. Also, expensive. Sell their pint-sized pieces on Depop and list them in minutes with no selling fees. Because somewhere, a dad refuses to pay full price for the clothes his kids will outgrow tomorrow. And he's ready to buy your son's entire wardrobe right now. Consider your future growth spurt budget secured. Start selling on Depop, where taste recognizes taste. Payment processing fees and boosting fees still apply. See website for details.
And welcome back to How We're the podcast. And just like the Newcastle fans at the weekend, Ant and Andrew have had to leave early. But we troop on and we'll carry on talking about Chris Rigg, because I want to put this to you, Johnny. And lads touched on it there. And it was, some of the things he was saying there, where he was saying, he was talking after the game and he said, I was thinking about it all week, all the different scenarios in my head. And all this, he said, but that was the best one. It means the world to me. I got a bit emotional after the game and I got a bit emotional before the game. And then he said with him and Luke and I, he said, me and Luke had a bit of a moment because we've played a lot of seasons here. And obviously Luke has been here for many years. And he just gave me a hug and said, wow. But not just the emotion behind it, Johnny, because the emotion came from that performance, didn't it? And how we played out there. And, that his first season in the Premier League, and you forget last season was pretty much his first full season. And in the end, his form dipped because of his age. And to be in the Premier League at his age and to be as talented as he is, it's one to try and manage, isn't it?
He's just phenomenal, isn't he? Like, it's easy, again, like I sort of mentioned it before with Brobbey, but magnify that times 1,000 with Chris Rigg. You can forget how young he still is because of how much football he's played for us and how long he's been around the first team picture. But for a lad who's still, he's still 18, isn't he? And he's rocking up at St James's Park, playing out of position for 90 minutes against a team who's been in the Champions League this season and essentially running the show against England's best left back, or if not the best, then up there in the top 2 or 3. There aren't enough superlatives in the world for that. It's ridiculous. It's genuinely ridiculous what he's doing at such a young age. And his attitude seems absolutely first class as well. All the stuff with his celebrations after the game. I think you can tell that somebody like Rigg has really bought into everything and fully immersed himself in what it means to be a Sunderland player with the way that he's reacting to stuff like that. Him and O'Nien sharing that moment together. You don't get that if you're not genuinely invested in what's going on and the journey that he's been on at Sunderland. And fingers crossed that journey continues for a long time yet. I'm sure we'll talk on plenty of podcasts over plenty of summers and Januaries about Chris Rigg's future at Sunderland. So let's hope that's a long way away just yet. But yeah, it all came together and it feels like a coming of age, I think, for Rigg. It feels like he's now fully arrived as a Premier League level footballer. Now, I think he's still got so much room to develop. and to improve and to keep progressing. But this game and the Brighton game as well, the week before, as I said, to be doing what he's doing out of position, I think that shows that he's so mature as a football player. A little bit like Trey Hume in the sense that he can fill in and do jobs for the team in a lot of different places, which, you know, we know how demanding Lebris is and how tactically astute he is. So for him to be able to trust Rigg with the different jobs that he does and the different roles that he performs, I think that just speaks volumes as to how much of a sponge Rigg must be behind the scenes, just soaking everything in, which I think is the perfect attitude to have for a young footballer. And you were touching on sort of what's his role and where does he play going forward before. Before I say this comparison, just understand I'm not saying they're as good as each other. He reminds me a lot of Bernardo Silva in the sense that he can play out wide, he can play in the middle, he can play all those different roles. He can play box to box, he can play further forward, he can sit a bit deeper if you need him to. He can play that right-hand side, cutting in on his left roll. He's not necessarily the quickest player, but he's a bit nippy over a couple of yards, enough to be able to keep up. And he just never stops running, and he can get at people and hustle and harry as much as he tries to be technical and cute on the ball. Again, I'm not saying Chris Rigg's as good as Bernardo Silva, but I think in terms of like what could Rigg go on to become, that sort of player, I think that's, you know, he's got all the ability in the world to be able to go and become that. Again, I'm not saying he's going to win the Champions League or anything like that. But yeah, I think, and again, that speaks to how good of a player Rigg already is, that you can make an argument like that and at least be coherent. Because he's already shown that he can do a lot of these things. And to have done all this at 18, yeah. I need to stop now because I'll just wax lyrical about him for an hour.
Well, I'm gonna put it across to someone who probably says Chris Rigg will win the Champions League and it'll be with Sunderland, because I'll put it to you, Gav, because we've got another one from Billy on the socials about Chris Rigg, and he asks, is it the perfect time to blood Rigg in the Premier League to set him up for next season by giving him a run? And then he says, if Lefay is fit, are we then rotating Rigg and Talby? But I think it's the type of thing we want to start thinking about, isn't it? In these later stages of the season, isn't it? And I think you touched on it with Martin and Damien. It's, you know, how do we finish as high as possible and get is Lebris even going to think about that? Is he just going to look to get 3 points out of every game, or is he going to look to do things like get as many minutes into Chris Rigg?
I think the thing is, right, is he's getting these opportunity because of injuries. So there is a touch of fortune about why Rigg's in the team, but this is why you have a squad, and this is what you want to happen. When you lose players to injury, you want the person who comes in to give the manager a headache. So when it comes round to the next game, when we're going to have loads of players fit, well, Rigg's made himself undroppable because he's played so well in the last 2 games, and that's exactly how it should be. We shouldn't really be talking about his age necessarily. He's been in the squad now for 4 seasons, which is mad because he's 18-year-old. But this is his I think it is his 4th season, isn't it? When you think back to his first appearance for the team, when what was that? Was that under? Was that under Mowbray, maybe?
Yeah, it was 22-23 when he made his debut in the FA Cup. So I think against Shrewsbury, was it?
Yeah. So he's obviously been around the squad for a fairly long time now. So he's earned his place, really, although it's come through a little bit of fortune. Yeah, by the time we play Tottenham, he'll probably be starting. And I think, all spots in the team have to be earned, but Lebris isn't just going to change tack necessarily. I think he's been doing this for a while anyways. Mayenda's been dropped in and out of the team, and he's only 20. Rigg has had other opportunities this season to get involved in games, but probably hasn't played well enough to retain his spot. Well, now he has, and that's great. And long may it continue. I think in the absence of Angulo and Traore and Jocelyn Tarbee, there are positions up for grabs, particularly out wide, and Rigg's done more than enough to earn his spot. So it shouldn't just be a case of, right, well, we've got 7 games left or whatever it is, 8 games left. Let's give all the kids a go, or give a certain selection of younger players a go. It should be if they've earned that chance, then they get a chance, and it's up to them to keep it. So, Yeah, certainly at least for the Tottenham game, Chris Riggs earned his chance, I think, and we should go one game at a time.
Yeah. Well, just having a look there, Chris Riggs about to turn 19 in June. And I wouldn't have thought this if there was a quiz question. If somebody had asked me even to give a range, he's played 87 games for Sunderland.
It's amazing, isn't it? And like to say that's just a testament to him. But I think it was Johnny mentioned there about his the way he just like he was up against Lewis Hall, who everyone's talking about at the minute, best left back probably in the country at the minute, or certainly when talking about England is the best English left back at the minute. And he didn't get a sniff out of Rigg. Rigg wasn't fazed by the occasion. When you think about the both teams, 18-year-old, he's had people questioning his loyalty to Sunderland because of his family ties to the Mags, and he put in a display like that, and then at the game, slapping the badge and kissing the badge. And I mean, did you see it was a great bit of footage the club got where it was from pitch side when we score the goal, and the camera just goes to Lafay and Rigg celebrating together. Nobody should ever question who his loyalty lies with ever again, because it was shown in that moment.
I think Rigg might have celebrated more intensely than a lot of people in the away end. He looked like he was going to pop with the excitement.
So much pressure on him, though, isn't there? Because of that, he's probably been gearing up to that more. Like, can you imagine being 18-year-old and you're told you're starting for Sunderland against Newcastle at St James's Park, given you've went there as a fan as a child, you know who your dad follows, like the pressure on him to perform. And if he'd had a stinker, you just know what people would have been saying about him, by the way. So hats off to Chris Rigg. And that's why the club have got such faith in him as a talent. Because he's that shows you the trust, doesn't it? Lebris didn't think twice about starting an 18-year-old against the best left back in the country at the minute in the biggest game of the season. Oh, what a performance when you consider all of that.
Yeah, and when I think what I'd achieved a few months before my 19th birthday, I mean, he's looking at 87 games. I was probably looking at that many pints or something like that. To be honest.
Didn't we say something? Well, I think I might have said it about him. Like when I was that age, I was still finding porn mags in bushes and stuff like that.
That's bold for you. Anyway, moving on. We've got one from Joe Loons about the squad. I'll stick this to you, Gav, because he said, when all players are fit, Register Bliss will have some very difficult decisions. He's got 4 from Michaela, Hume, Gertruda, Ballard, Alderete, Ronaldo, 3 from Xhaka, Lafay, Diarra, Sadiki, 2 wingers from Rigg, Talby, Jocelyn and Angulo. And then he's picking 1 from Brian Brobbey and Isidore. He says it's a great problem to have.
Oh, an excellent problem to have. I think we've put together a really, really good squad this season. And Johnny loves this point, so I probably defer to him on this one. But it is a squad game. There isn't such a thing as a starting 11 or a stronger starting 11. Otherwise, that wouldn't have been the team we picked on Sunday, would it? Because when you look at the bench options, that wasn't Sunderland's quote-unquote best 11. Lebris doesn't pick his team like that. You look at the derby, he picked the team that he basically had the time to work with, as opposed to just chucking players in. And I've talked about this quite a bit. I think it's really important that we do, and there's not much focus being placed on this. But while quite a lot of us were getting distracted by who might be available for the game, Lebris was just going, well, I know who I've got available this week. So this is the team I'm picking, and if any of these guys are back for the game on Sunday, it's a bonus. They'll be on the bench. They'll play their part at some point if I need them. That is such a. It sounds so straightforward, but not many managers think like that, do they? I'm flapping about the centre half pairing and who might play full back and who might play on the wing, and he's just like, well, I know I've got these lads available, so this is the team I'm playing. And that's the best way to prepare. And I mean, we can sit and hail him as a genius now, can't we? As a result of that, because he got the result. But yeah, it's just nice to have so many options in so many positions around the pitch. I think, like again, we're just repeating ourselves here, but especially after such a big win, I think it's the right or appropriate point to commend the club on what they've done and the team they've built. Because even with so many injuries, we're coping. We've turned the away form around with injuries. We haven't had Roofs for the last run of games. Elborg's had to come in as a young kid and step into some big shoes for a goalkeeper who everyone's raving about and has done a fantastic job, in my opinion. We've picked up 2 great results away from home with him in goal. So yeah, it's a squad game, and we've proven that, and people need to be a little bit more mindful of that, I think, when judging players. Like, generally speaking, we've got a very good squad, and we've actually proven with results that we can get results even with so many players missing.
Yeah, and because we're playing Johnny Bingo on the topic, and we've got a few more to go before we get a full house, I'll bring you on a Johnny, because the squad's really been tested to the limit this season. Of course, we had AFCON, but then we've had, I think we had 3 injuries in the first half of one game or something ridiculous like that, who all needed to go off. But you look at how far this squad's been pushed. I mean, would you put it down to that actually they built something that could withstand something like this? Or do you think Regis Labris has actually fought through it? Because, you know, to build a squad from where we were, you looked at that final whistle at Wembley, and look, most fans thought, God, okay, next season it's going to be, let's just fight for survival. We're 11th in the league on 43 points with 7 games left. I mean, to do that with the injury problems and losing the players, like I said, through AFCON, is some achievement. But I mean, do we tip our hats to the club in general, to the manager, or to everyone involved?
Well, it's a little bit of everything, isn't it? I mean, the club obviously deserve tremendous credit for spearheading the recruitment. I mean, obviously we've done it to death, but the whole structure behind the scenes in terms of the recruitment team, the scouting network, the academy, like everybody on the football side is so clearly unified, and all feeding into Kirill, who himself is a very focused leader. We know that he's got, some pretty clear plans and a clear vision for the club. And so all of that, marries up together, and the harmony on that side of things gives us a massive advantage. And then we see that in terms of the quality of the player that we bring in and the number of deals we got over the line. So that was all brilliant and massively important. But there's almost a little bit of revisionism with Labris sometimes. It's easy to forget that he came into a team that finished 16th in the championship, sold Jack Clark, and got it promoted. Like that. Of course he's good. Of course he's able to make the most of the squads that he's got. Like, obviously it was a different season. It was a different team. It was a different league. So you can never be sure that that's going to translate up to the Premier League at the first time of asking. So that doesn't.
Did it in France as well, though, Johnny, with Lorient. A lot of the players you're seeing bouncing around the Prem now played for him at Lorient and came through the academy there. So,
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, right? So Labris has shown at other clubs and at Sunderland that he's capable of doing this. I think it's time now that we all just trust him a bit more. I think, not to say that the majority of people don't, but he makes some strange looking decisions at times. He'll come out with a slightly odd team selection. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people were looking at that team selection before kickoff on Sunday and going, bloody hell, Mukiele on the bench, Enzo on the bench, whatever it is. I'm not sure about that, but we've seen that Labris knows how to get the most out of certain players when they're not in their best positions or things are going against us. So he deserves massive credit, and he's shown that he's able to do this, and he's continuing that work. And this was a real sort of cherry on the ice and on the cake of showing his managerial ability, I think, because he totally, out-thought Eddie Howe on that day completely and really proved himself yet again as a top-level manager. And then finally, the players deserve immense credit as well. I mean, the reason that we've all just spoken so highly of Chris Rigg there is partly because of this exact issue. Like, oh God, we've got no right wingers. What do we do? Well, let's put our 18-year-old central midfield player there and he'll just knock in a man of the match performance and we'll beat our, biggest rivals away from home. That's not normal. Most clubs can't do that. They don't have a player like him that they can slot in there. And the same goes for Trey Hume, who's deputised out of position. It goes for Hetrauder, who I've been a little bit critical of at times this season, but I thought he was really, really good on Sunday and arguably maybe his best performance in a Sunderland shirt, or certainly up there, if not the best. So yeah, the club have had to recruit those players. Labris has to organise those players, but the players have to go out and produce on the day. So just massive credit all round. But I think, my overall takeaway would be Labris has done this now over a multitude of seasons, in a multitude of competitions, with a multitude of different players. So, you know, if that doesn't give you full confidence in him, I don't know what will.
Yeah, you can tell by his reaction to the second goal. He loves it when a plan comes together, doesn't he? And but Gav, just moving on to and link to the manager actually, because we've got one on kind of the style of play from Rye XCL on the socials. He's asking, in contrast with the way we played against Newcastle in the second half, do you think we should be more offensive and not be scared to take opponents on? Now, it's a funny one, this, isn't it? Because everyone's saying we should be more offensive, but the style of play and the way we set up and the way that we don't go behind has meant that we stay in games and we can get back in games. We can nick games. I mean, one of the prime examples is Chelsea away. You know, that our defensive shape allowed us to get the win in the end. Arsenal at home, you could say, our defensive shape allowed us to pick up a point. But, you know, then you look at the Fulham game or the Brighton game, and then people want us to be more expansive, want us to be more offensive. So where do you sit on that?
I think I'm very keen not to just like, okay, right, well, this has got us this far, we need to completely change now, because you're in danger of capitulating. Yep. Like this works. We got promoted and then we've consolidated playing like this. Do I want Sunderland to play the best football I've ever seen, win loads of games, and finish higher every season? Absolutely, but it's not that easy. You can't just go, okay, right, we're going to be more expansive, because we'll probably lose more games. You know, we might win the odd one that we might have ordinarily drawn or lost, but more often than not, you will lose more games. You'll concede a lot more goals. This has got us this far. I'm not in a position to start saying what Reggie Slibbery should be doing, other than he clearly knows what he's doing and he's earned our trust. And I was saying this the other week when stupidly people were asking us if we think it's time for him in the summer. I think the guy has just done an amazing job, and he'll decide when it's the right time to be more expansive. Although, to be honest, right, I thought against Newcastle we were more expansive. All the things we were saying after Brighton, and I was critical of this. I was saying just shoot more, and it was the same after Port Vale. Just shoot more, just get more shots away. Well, against Newcastle we did that. You know, we had plenty of opportunities against Newcastle, and maybe that is a sign that we are getting there. The away form is, you look at the away form. Last 3 away games, we've won at Newcastle, we've won at Leeds, we've took a point off Bournemouth when we were the better team. So even in the season, we are addressing things and getting better. I think, you know, there's always going to be room for improvement, isn't there? But yeah, I mean, I get it. I get why people are sitting and going, oh, I wish we were just more attacking, and I wish we were more this. But I also really like beating Newcastle, and I really like beating Leeds. And I don't think playing expansive football, we would have got those results. Certainly would have got it at Newcastle, because the only thing they're good at is pressing high and playing with pace and getting in over the top and in behind. The Mags thrive off that, hence why in spells against Barcelona they were all right, but they couldn't do it against us, because Barcelona allow you a lot of room in behind. So yeah, all right, you want to play more expansive football? Well, we probably don't go to St James's Park and win.
Can I just to add on to that as well, by the way, I think that was really well put. Totally agree with every word. And I think it's like, it just reinforces the point further when you realise that, oh, we played a bit better going forward against Newcastle. Okay, part of it's probably intensity because it's a derby and whatever. But, oh, we finally started going forward a bit better now that we have our entire first choice midfield 3 fit again, and we have our first choice number 9 fit and starting games in the same team together again. And, you know, we have Talby, who has missed massive patches of the season. He's back and playing again regularly now. Like, oh, isn't it funny how when you get your best players back and put them on the same pitch, you start playing better football? Almost like that's been part of the problem this season when we've had no players fit. But yes, I thought that was really well said, Gav.
Yeah, not only
Cheers,
that,
I'll take the compliment. Thank you very much, Johnny.
It is easier when you've got the mentality of chasing the game as well, because we were a goal down, of course, and we did need to do that. But
that was part of the plan then, Chris, do you?
What's that?
Just give them an early lead so we can chase it.
Of course it is. We took the piss, didn't we? No, but I think it's been our plan all season to keep it tight. And Register said it a couple of weeks ago in a press conference. He says, the point was of this season, he said we didn't have the players or the squad to go out and just batter teams from the off. So he said it was about not starting games 2 or 3 down and staying in games. When you got the likes of Granit Xhaka doing the game management towards the end, you've got a chance, haven't you? But moving on, because this isn't half a question, Johnny, and I'm going to throw it to you first, because with 7 games to go, Michael Conroy asks, do we actually want Europe? He says we've seen teams like Forest and Newcastle struggle with fatigue. And Newcastle didn't struggle with fatigue. I'm not having that. And Forest as well, they went and battered Spurs. Anyway, moving on. Would it be better to build in the summer and go for it next season, or get it and bring in higher quality? And then he adds, as always, FTM. But what's your take on that, Johnny?
Well, I totally agree with the FTM part. Listen, I understand where the question comes from, right? I do get it. And at different times, I've sort of landed on different sides of this debate myself, both when thinking about Sunderland and thinking about other teams. There is an argument sometimes to be made that you can, whether this is related to getting promotions, whether it's related to qualifying for continental competitions or whatever, sometimes you can stretch yourself a bit too much too quickly. Whether that results in you just don't have big enough squad, you end up, with too many injuries. There's so many different knock-on effects that come from, again, whether it's a promotion, whether it's qualifying for a competition, whatever. But how on earth can we possibly be arrogant enough to say, well, we could qualify for Europe this season, but let's just not do it on purpose and then go for it again next time? Because are Liverpool definitely going to be having a stinker of a season next season? Are Chelsea going to have a bloody LinkedIn robot in charge next season? Are Newcastle going to be struggling as badly next season? Are Tottenham? Are Nottingham Forest? Are Crystal Palace? There's any number of teams in this league who are at any given time, a couple of things going their way away from shooting up the table. I mean, we've done it ourselves. We essentially are doing it this season. We were a team where, we were only ever that right transfer window or whatever away from, sort of uncorking the bottle and bang, you're away. So who knows what the Premier League's going to look like next season? Who knows what next season's promoted teams are going to do? There's so many variables, so many unknowns. I don't think you can afford to try and over-strategize stuff like this. If you see the opportunity opening up in front of you, I think you've got to go for it, because at the end of the day, none of us sat on this call now, recording this podcast, or basically anybody who's sat listening to the podcast really, is going to have any memories of Sunderland ever playing in Europe. So if we give up the chance now, we could be sat 50 years hence and we've never been in anyway. If there's a chance there, we should go for it. And I think this season's the perfect chance. We're out of all the cups. We're into the last knockings of the season. It's all tight. Why not? Who cares what happens next season, really? Let's be brutally honest. Kirill could lose interest tomorrow and sell the club, and we might totally plummet and go down League 2. So while the going's good...
Johnny, keep it light.
But do you know what I mean? While the going's good, let's make the most of it.
Do you know? Well, I agree with that, and something you've said there kind of rankles with something else we were told. So when we got promoted, why you don't want to get promoted because everyone comes straight back down. I'm more happy to judge Sunderland on their own failings than I am other clubs' failings. It's nothing to do with Sunderland if Spurs and Forest and whoever else have struggled because they can't handle playing extra games. I've never seen Sunderland play in Europe. I would absolutely kill for one away day in the arse end of Europe playing against some farmers. That I would kill for it. So I don't care. I trust the club enough to get it right.
Yeah.
We showed how good our planning was in the summer, right? We didn't get we didn't get lost in all that bullshit about promoted clubs. We were like, well, to avoid happening to us what happened to us, so many other clubs, we're going to do it the opposite to them. And I'm sure if we qualified for Europe, that would be a big figure of the discussions and things over the summer. Would be all right. All these clubs done it wrong, and this is how we're going to do it. That would be my stance.
Just one final point I want to make is it's not 10 or 15 years ago anymore where you get knocked out the Champions League and drop to the Europa. You get knocked out the Europa and drop one more down. whoever's in that competition at the start of the season is who's going to finish that competition. Just
Yeah.
by virtue of being English, we get into the Conference League, we're automatically favourites to win it. That's not saying that we would, or that we'd piss it and that we'd be winning 7-0 every week. West Ham won it, you know.
David Moyes managed a team to that trophy. Yes,
Exactly.
exactly.
Crystal Palace at the moment are absolutely stinking the Premier League out every week, and they're still cruising through in Europe. You know, it's a bit of a sad state of affairs for European football, but selfishly, we don't need to care about that. We have the money in the Premier League, so if we get into Europe, we will have a massive chance at winning European silverware. How anybody could turn that down is beyond me.
Bloody hell, Johnny, you took us on a roller coaster there. You went from taking us down to League Two to winning a European trophy in the space of about 5 minutes.
Sounds like one of my football manager saves this.
Bloody hell. But yeah, Gav, just link to that, and it's the last one because Tony Bang sent us a question asking about the model, I suppose, because he asks, are we a selling club? He said, if so, with the current model, who would you least like to be sold of our most saleable assets? And is there a limit on sales that will affect the team? Now, just quickly, Gav, before, and it's interesting because when you watch the likes of the Arsenal documentary or the Spurs documentary and all this sort of stuff, and you see the director of football, and they go, "Oh, I hate the January transfer window." And both of them said that in the documentaries. But you look at Sunderland, and it's almost like we look at selling a player as an opportunity. We don't see it as a. Oh no, they you know, we've broke the team up, or we have to sell him. We go, right, brilliant. If we can sell him for 30, we buy 2 players who are just as good for 15 or something like that. We see that as an opportunity, don't we?
Yeah, we do. And like the question was, which of our saleable assets would I most least like to see go, right? The problem is they're all saleable assets now. Every player we've got has value and would be wanted by other clubs. And I'm even going down to, you know, like, for instance, and this isn't in no way a knock on him, but Luke O'Nien, for instance, there would be clubs queuing around the block to sign him, and there are still Sunderland fans who think he's not good enough. So, you know, they're all saleable assets. That's the problem, really, is that I like them all, but I also understand and came to peace with a long, long time ago that it's part of the journey. And Reggie likes that word, doesn't he? Journey, but it is part of the journey that players are going to leave us. So, I mean, to be honest, a big feature of this team, and this is important given the result at the weekend, is the culture that's been created, and the players who are important to that are probably the ones I would least like to see leave. So, you know, Granit Xhaka, Luke O'Nien in particular, Trey Hume, Dan Ballard. You know, the core leadership group of this, because you lose those types of players who set the standard every day. It is very difficult to find players to replace what they bring. I guess the best way to do it would be to have some sort of succession planning, which I suppose that's what we're going through now. You know, when you see kind of Xhaka coming in, but he's had to learn a lot from the lads like Trey Hume and Luke O'Nien and Dan Ballard about the journey we've been on. So I would say actually probably those players. And if I had to boil it right down, well, who's the hardest to replace out of that little group? Xhaka's getting on a bit, so we probably are planning forward after this season, even if it's just bringing in an understudy. I would argue Ballard, you know, because he commands probably a 50-60 million pound fee now. He is that good. I don't think there's a single team in the country wouldn't want him. Genuinely, he walks into any team in this league, I believe. He's that good, and we were talking about Brian Brobbey being quite unique. I think Ballard's a unique profile of defender because he can play, but he's also got the heart of a lion and throws himself at everything and is committed, and that's a dying art in the game. And he's still young, so yeah, I'd probably say if I had to give an answer, Ballard. But any of that sort of group of 4 that I just mentioned before would be a colossal miss from a culture perspective, I think.
Yeah. Well, just quickly, Johnny, I'll get your thoughts on it very quickly because, you know, how much did we talk last season about us selling Bellingham? And we were going, oh, you know, how important is he to us and all this sort of stuff. And then they go and sell Bellingham and bring in Siddiqui and make 15 million while they're at it. I mean, you mentioned footy manager earlier on, but that's what it's like, isn't it, at Sunderland?
We've been playing football manager with a cheat enabled, I think. That's how we've been recruiting. No, again, I think Gav's spot on. You know, you look at the way that we operate, and it's pretty clear that anybody who comes to Sunderland has a price, and if that price is met and it suits the club and it suits the player, then they'll be allowed to move on. And that's right. That's the way you've got to operate in the modern market. So with that in mind, obviously within that, there's still sort of a hierarchy of who you'd be least happy to lose down to who you could probably replace the easiest. Ballard's a great shout. You know, he's such a unique type of player. I think Roofs is a massive one. Because just like goalkeeper as a position is so important, particularly again in the modern game with goalkeepers becoming really involved with starting the play and everything like that. So he's a big one. And Brobbey, you know, we've mentioned him already plenty in this episode. As we've all said, like, try and find another Brian Brobbey to bring in. Good luck. You'll be looking for a while because there ain't too many of them knocking around. But I think the key thing for me is whoever it is that goes, as long as the deal makes sense for the club and we're bringing in enough money that we can keep the wheels turning and bring the next few in, I'm okay with anybody going, to be honest. Like, emotionally, again, there's some players you don't want to see go who've done great things in Sunderland shirts, like Ballard's header against Coventry and everything. But, you know, the players change, the manager changes, the club stays the same at the end of the day.
And I think the point is we trust them now because they've got us this far. So you've got trust in them to get it right.
Exactly. The proof of the pudding's in the eating, and we're eating bloody good at the minute.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, sticking with you, Johnny, because a couple of really quick ones to finish us with, and I'll stick with you, Johnny, for this one because Jason Thompson says he says he wants our thoughts on Jason Steele being in the England squad.
Harry Kane's going to have some really, really fun training sessions. That's all I'll say.
Just play the ball over the top and he'll run under it.
Can you get sent off in England training? We're about to find out.
I mean, I don't know if you've got any thoughts on it, Gav, but it just seems strange when they're like, oh, you know, and I think Roy Keane said this on the overlap, where everyone's going, oh, well, he's a great lad and all this sort of stuff. It's like, well, what does that mean? You know, like, what's he going to show the England, you know, the top England keepers? He said, oh, don't do it like this, do it like this. I mean, I have to admit, Gav, I didn't really get it.
No, I think I don't know if this is right, but hasn't been said basically that they want like a training keeper who helps with like the penalty practice and stuff, while the rest of them are actually going through the proper work, and that kind of makes sense. But in that case, why not call up a kid who could benefit from the experience? Like genuinely, like why is like a Matty Young or whoever the under-21s keeper is, or
well, if you want to give the players confidence scoring penalties.
Well, it's true. do you know what it is, right? Do you know what it is? When I saw it, I went, like, obviously, like everyone else, I was like, what the fuck? What's that all about? But then actually, you know what it is? Like, time's been kind, I think. Look, Jason Steele, yes, he was garbage, but he didn't treat the club like with contempt like a lot of players have when they've came here. I actually felt a bit sorry for him, having watched him back on Sun Until I Die. I thought he came across pretty well, and I felt a bit bad for giving him so much abuse. It was a bit bad to be a Sunderland fan.
You only need to feel a bit bad for it, mate, because he was proper honking.
Yeah, I get that. So part of us actually is sitting here going, actually, fucking fair play to the lad, like, fair play. Like, after bombing as bad as he did at Sunderland and going through what he went through, he's made a bit of a career for himself at a decent club, and Jason Steele's going to the World Cup. If someone had told you that 10 years ago, you'd have, I don't know what you would have done, but it wouldn't have been pretty.
World Cup of what?
The futsal World Cup. Yeah. But yeah, fair play to him. Look, he's done well at Brighton, hasn't he? And he doesn't even play that often, but when he does, he obviously does enough to get some recognition. Fair enough. Like I'm long past holding any ill will towards him. Lee Camp, you've got a little bit of work to do. Maybe get an England call up, and I might feel a bit more sympathetic towards you. Otherwise, you can fuck off. But no, Jason Steele, fair enough.
Never mind a call up for Lee Camp. He needs to save the winning penalty in the final or something to redeem himself up here. But anyway,
is Lee Camp Welsh actually? Or is he English? I've got a feeling he's Welsh, isn't he?
Maybe neither country wants to claim him.
No, actually, he played 9 games for Northern Ireland, apparently.
Oh,
so there you go.
Oh,
He's from Derby, but he played for Northern Ireland. Oh well, fair enough.
Last one, and I'll stick this one to you, Gav, very quickly, because Walex Walbon, he says, I'm going to be visiting Sunderland for the first time to watch us play Tottenham next month. What do you guys recommend for a tourist to do while they're in Sunderland and not watching some football? Restaurants, pubs, museums, etc. I'm open to any suggestions.
Well, I'm presume that's the designated fans weekend game, isn't it? So,
Yes.
you will not be on your own, first and foremost. There'll be plenty of other fans from around the world there. Get in touch with the BLC if you haven't already. Presume you have if you've managed to secure tickets. But yeah, get in touch with the BLC. They've got a bunch of things lined up as I would expect they normally do. There's the fan party at the Fans Museum. I mean, that would be the big one for me. Go to the Fans Museum. Even if you are planning to go to the Fan Museum party, go like on a normal day when it's not full of people and just have a proper look at everything, because the Fan Museum's unbelievable. Like from a Sunderland perspective, there's just so much stuff there to look at. If you're a proper Sunderland nerd and you like your history and that, you could spend hours in there, which you're probably not going to be able to do or really focus on at the party because there'll be too many people to talk to and you might want to drink. But head to the seafront. It's amazing down there. Like, I'm the biggest advocate of our seafront. I absolutely love Seaburn and Roker and Whitburn too. So many good places to eat. You won't find many chain restaurants and things in Sunderland, and I think that's a real strength of Sunderland. Like, it's a very independent city. Bars, restaurants, places to visit. There's not many, like, it's not like you haven't got your Wagamamas and that sort of thing on every street corner. It's like, you know, you've got like a Korean restaurant or a Japanese restaurant or a Vietnamese restaurant or, you know, a local restaurant, and it's all local and it's independent, and that's such a special thing about Sunderland, isn't it? So yeah, definitely head to the beach. Definitely check out a few of the places down there. Try some decent fish and chips at Downey's or Minchella's is my favourite.
Where can you get a decent Sav dip, Gav?
Ooh, don't go to Dixon's because they're corporate, right? Don't go to Dixon's for a Savaloy dip, first and foremost. Go to the dip shop in the town. Got to go to the dip shop. You know, the little hut that's kind of just off Blandford Street, the Savaloy dip shop. Go there for a dip, definitely. Or go to Robson's Butchers. And if you want a decent pink slice, go to McCoy's. McCoy's in Pallion or on Chester Road or Hilton Castle. Best pink slice in the world, bar none. I've never had it better anywhere else. So if you want some proper local delicacy, that's where you need to go. Go to McCoy's. Try proper pies. Take out a remortgage, mind, before you buy one. Because they're like 12 quid for pie and mash. But it is nice. Definitely head to the Sheepfolds. I could spend all day doing this.
Yeah.
There's a million places I could recommend. Again, I'm such an advocate for Sunderland. I love the place.
I think
And
Gav might
think
be a
of so many
food
good
reviewer.
places.
I think he's a food reviewer stuck in a football podcaster's body. It's
Yeah,
really
I am
quite
as well.
sad watching. You know,
Yeah.
he must be in such pain.
Sad.
No, I'm saying it's
Full
sad.
of good ideas.
It's sad to see you miss your calling, Gav. You should be doing this full time.
There's enough people out there doing that shit.
If you saw the videos from last Sunday where he's swinging his top round his head, he's definitely stuck in a food reviewer's body.
Hey, tell you what, I lost all control at that point. When Brobbey scored, shirt was off, over my head, diving all over the place. Why not? But yeah, no, there's just so much you could pack in. I would say go with a clear mind. Don't have too much of a plan. Just head to that seafront and walk. You walk for miles and miles and hit a million different places, and then probably end up in the Blandford or something if you keep going towards the town centre. But yeah, but yeah, that is a point though, isn't it? Sunderland's such a unique place. Loads of places to go, so you will not be short of places to visit.
No, but I think that's a really good point for us to stop this advertising from the Sunderland Tourist Board. But just like to say thank you very much, Gav. Thank you very much, Johnny. Thanks for your time, lads. Always a
No
pleasure.
problem. Always a pleasure.
Thank you again, everyone, for listening. Stick with us during the international break. We've got loads planned, and we'll be with you every day as usual to distract you from the international football. So look out for that each day, as well as checking out the daily content on the Local Report website. But from us, it's bye for now.
Enhance your CTE programs with AP and the college credit it offers. New AP Career Kickstart courses are now available for high schools to adopt for the 2026-2027 school year. Help your students kickstart their careers with AP Cybersecurity or AP Business with Personal Finance. Learn more at careerkickstart.org.